Welcome into the GA Scumbags, your crazy uncle's favorite Duke football podcast, episode number 7 now. I am one of your co-hosts, Tyler Lester, being joined as always by Noah Lunsford. And on today's episode, we continue our preview of Duke's roster as well as the rest of the country as we dive into the offensive and defensive lines, which will probably be the most controversial uh, roster spots on Duke this year, and we look at the American Athletic and the SEC. But before we get to that, Noah, something I want to touch on with you. Duke released their media day participants the other day, and it was kind of a surprising list, I would say. It was Malik Murphy, Grayson Loftus, Justin Pickett, Jordan Moore, and Jalen Stinson. No Trey Freeman, 2 quarterbacks. I mean, it was a really odd list to see. And, you try not to read into it too much, but still, just a really odd pairing of guys.
Yeah, I saw this go on the good old lunch break at work, head out with the boys from the office. And I sit down, pull up my phone, that's the first thing that pops on my screen, and all I can think is like, why? And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I love every player, think every player, deserves media spotlight, a chance to shine. But like in an ideal world, Malik Murphy, Trey Freeman, Chandler Rivers, give me Wesley Williams or VJ Anthony, and give me Brian Parker from the offensive line. A little bit of youth there. I'm not hating. I'm not gonna trash on it because there are probably reasons why those guys didn't go. They may not have even wanted to go, or this is kind of like a little bit of a down period coming up before fall camp like rocks. So, might have plans, something like that. Could possibly just be that they don't like answering questions for 7 hours a day. But, I don't want to comment too much on it because there's not much good to say, but it'll be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of questions that get brought up about a QV controversy. I don't know if that's going to be good for like mesh and the intangibles of how this team's going to work out together. But that's why I'm not a coach. That's why Duke doesn't pay me. That's why I'm not employed by Duke and probably never will be. But I don't know. What do you think, Tyler? What's your opinion on the whole ordeal?
I just, when you look at it, I saw a thing, and it was there are three other ACC schools that are taking 2 quarterbacks to media day. One of them is UNC, and I mean they really don't know who's playing quarterback. Like it's a battle of shit and more shit over there to who's going to be quarterback. They were so bad they didn't even want to advertise the spring game. Uh, it was them, SMU, which was odd because Preston Stone's probably a top 3 quarterback in the league this year, and then Cal was sending 2 quarterbacks. And then Wake Forest and Florida State were the only 2 teams that aren't sending a quarterback at all to media day. So I mean, it's just a weird, and you don't want to read into media days too much and like this, but when you've got a guy that was as highly touted as Malik is coming in, and you've got a quarterback that played ample minutes last year for Duke like Loftus is, certain people still presume it to be a quote QB battle, and now you're bringing 2 guys to media day, and that's all they're going to get asked about. Like Mandy's probably going to get asked 100 times now about the quarterback battle, when there are far more pressing issues to worry about than whether a 4-star recruit is coming in to play quarterback versus a 2-star who was never meant to play this year anyways. And again, this is not meant as I'm going a little tangent. This is not meant to be a knock on Grayson Loftus. I think Loftus is the future starting quarterback for Duke down the road and has the utmost potential in the world. But anyone who looks at Malik Murphy and has watched film and sees that arm and sees just the pure raw talent and thinks, hey, yeah, I'm going with the other guy. Like they both need work still. Absolutely. There's a lot of stuff Malik can work on. But at the same time, like Grayson struggled last year. Everyone cites, look what he did against Carolina. He had 185 yards and 3 touchdowns. We lost the ball game. Malik Murphy didn't lose a start. I mean, I want a winner. And again, we both are fans of Grayson. We think Grayson's going to be really good. We're just bigger fans of Malik Murphy because Malik Murphy's going to be playing in the NFL on Sundays one day. Trey Freeman was, though, the oddest omission to me. Like, unless Trey decided to opt out of going, I would find it hard to believe that, like, Manny Diaz didn't invite Trey Freeman. And if Manny didn't invite Trey, who's got it worse than Trey Freeman right now? He may not have gotten invited to media day. He's like a 73 overall on ES or on EA
It's
Sports College
it's
Football
just
25.
blasphemy. It's
Like,
blasphemy that he's a 74.
Trey Freeman's a top like 5 linebacker in the conference this year, and he's ranked 74 on EA Sports College 25. What an absolute joke. But all right. So now that we got that out of the way, let's dive into Duke's defensive line preview for the year. What we're going to do is Maurice is going to give you kind of a quick snapshot on the guys on the roster, and then we'll kind of give you who we think is going to be the rotation and starting guys on the defensive line. So I'll kick it off with one of the obvious ones. Vincent Anthony Jr. is back. He is a true junior. In 2022, believe it or not, I didn't know this. He was Duke's Rookie of the Year. He's got 24 games played. He started 16 of them in his career, 45 tackles, 2.5 sacks. Here's the thing with VJ. His numbers aren't gaudy, but at the same time, he's never really had a chance to kind of be the guy. He's played behind guys like, Dwayne and Peebles and Oben and Jamion. Like, there's always been guys above him where it was clear he's below these guys. If Duke's defensive line is going to do anything this year, it starts with Vincent Anthony Jr. like taking over and realizing like it's his line, like he's got to be the guy on it this year.
Yeah, I think Vincent's due for a very productive year. He's got all the talent in the world. I think that's finally going to get the show off. Definitely with Manny Diaz being such a good defensive coach, he's going to put the right talent out there. As Coach Elmo did not really see some of that talent, I believe, and might have misplayed some snaps. But the guy I want to highlight is Wesley Williams. Really big fan of Wesley here. Young cat as well. Just his third year, but he's a redshirt sophomore. 14 career games, 40 tackles, seven tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, a couple pass breakups, a couple block kicks. 2023 rookie defensive player of the year for Duke. 2022 during his redshirt freshman season, he was the scout team player of the year, which I find pretty cool. It means he was busting ass every day. He was the 52nd ranked defensive lineman in his class a while back. Not that we ever think that stars and numbers merit much, but that's a good place to be. And I think if Wesley and VJ start at the end positions, I think that could end up being one of the best tandems, not only in the ACC but in the country, just based off of athleticism. I mean, it would be hard pressed to find 2 edge rushers that were that athletic, strong, quick, tall, and they attack multiple different ways. They're not one trick ponies. They're not a bull rush only or a rip move or a swim move only. Like they're going to give it to you 7 ways to Sunday, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah, like the big thing you hit on with Wesley right there is it's important to note he's gotten an award every year he's been at Duke. He was Scout Team Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and last year towards the back half of the season, like the last 4 or 5 games, like he kind of like forced Elko's hand and said, "You've got to start playing me because I'm playing that good." So I mean, he's improved every single year. So by that measure, again, we can expect another big year from Wesley Williams. So, and before we get into a few other guys, I'm just going to run through kind of some young guys like Duke's defensive line. To give you a quick rundown, we've got 10 freshmen or redshirt freshmen and 7 sophomores to seniors. So we're just going to run through some of the freshmen that we think are probably redshirt candidates or may not touch the field much. Tyshawn Reed is one of them. He's a 3-star recruit from Colquitt County High School, number 72 ranked edge. In 2 years in high school, he had 107 tackles, 6 sacks. Another one, and this is a guy that I'm pretty high on in terms of like long-term trajectory. Kobe Smith, 4 years at Red Bank High School out of Tennessee, 3-star recruit, number 33 ranked edge player. In his career, he has 200 tackles, 9 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, 3 blocked field goals, 6 defensive touchdowns, and 13 forced fumbles. A few more young guys.
I would really like this not to interrupt, but Kobe I feel like deserves a little bit of spotlight. I watched the tape on Kobe about a month ago because he kind of stood out in the way that like Preston Watson and Ryan Day, not Ryan Day, gosh darn it, blanked on that one, offensive lineman. That's a freshman as well.
I think
Ryan
it's Daly.
Daly,
Yeah,
or Dally,
Daly,
one of the
Daly.
two, yeah. But anyways, those like three freshmen on these two sides of the line are like the ones I feel like collectively have stood out to both of us. Kobe might see the field this year. I think he's that good. I think it's just going to come down to that red shirt decision, like you're talking about. But and Kobe Smith has some talent, and it's not necessarily like raw talent. It's pretty damn developed. I mean, he's got a very refined kind of pass rushing repertoire. He's got a lot. He's got the moves like Jagger. He's got a lot of things going on, and I loved what I saw from him, and I think he could definitely be a big time player for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, in the defensive line's a lot harder. Well, they're both hard to project. Like, the issue with the defensive line is trying to figure out what young guys are going to play because some young guys are going to have to play. Like, they don't have a choice because we're so young on the defensive line. Whereas the offensive line, it's just when we get to that on the end of the pod, it's just the exact opposite in terms of there's a lot of old guys. But yeah, I'm with you. I think out of the freshmen we're bringing in, I think Preston Daly. Sorry, Ryan. I don't. Let us know
Thanks for following the pod, but yeah, just let us know if we're botching it really bad.
Yeah, just give us a quick DM if you ever listen to this. And Kobe are the three like studs or standouts out of the freshman group, and I mean all three of them are absolute standouts. So we'll speak on the other two while we're at it. Matter of fact, we'll go ahead and hit them up. Preston Watson, he's the 35th ranked defensive tackle in his class coming in. In his career, he had 172 tackles, 43 tackles for loss, and 20 sacks in his high school career. Ryan, sorry again for your last name. I'm gonna say Daly.
And I'll ride daily. You just let us know
Yeah,
which scumbag is right and which scum is wrong.
and probably neither one of us knowing how this
Yeah,
works.
more than likely, both our dumbasses are wrong.
But in Ryan's high school career, he also plays defensive tackle. 127 tackles, 9 sacks. Other freshmen we'll touch on real quick. There is two redshirt freshmen, both defensive tackles, Desmond Aladuge and David Anderson. They both played minimal time last year. Desmond saw 3 snaps total. In high school, he had 116 career tackles. David played in 3 games, had 4 tackles last year. So, I mean, they could push for playing time. I think there's going to be more playing time to get a defensive tackle, in my opinion, than like on the edge. I think the edge is going to be where you're really going to have to fight for minutes because when we get to
Edge
some of the
is a
other
two
guys,
deep rotation more than likely. After Williams and VJ, you're gonna have there's gonna be 2 more guys that'll rotate, deep pass situations, things like that. But it'll be hard to get in as like the third or fourth deep guy.
yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. Like VJ and Wesley Williams are probably going to dominate most of the playing time at on the outside this year. And before we get into the other 2 guys on the edge that I think are solidly like the 2 backups there, 2 more I believe 3 more freshmen really quick. Jaden Carl, defensive end, 3-star prospect. In his career, 147 tackles, 7 sacks in high school. Kevin O'Connor, redshirt freshman. He was actually recruited as an outside linebacker. Manny has moved him to defensive edge, or on the out. He's listed as an edge rusher now. And then Samaj Turner, who is another one that could see some playing time. But again, I just the edge spot's going to be really tough to crack minutes in. But Samaj played in 3 games last year. had 3 tackles and 31 snaps. I mean, that's pretty decent average right there. He was
Product of
last
Reagan
year's
High School too, boy.
and
North Carolina's own.
shout out Forsyth County,
Forsyth
Reagan High
always.
School.
Forsyth really does produce a lot of Blue Devils, and for that I'm thankful.
And Samaj, believe it or not, was last year's Scout Player of the Year. So if the trend continues, he should be Defensive Rookie of the Year this year with how that trend's worked out.
God,
But
bookmark whatever minute this is in the pod for the end of year award show, because you might have just cooked there, brother. You might
yeah, I
have
mean,
just
if
cooked
it
up
happens,
something
you guys thank
crazy.
me later. So some other defensive linemen, before we hit on some guys, like we're getting to the point where now we're going to kind of start talking about guys that are going to get a lot of playing time. Terry Simmons Jr., he's another redshirt freshman. Don't want to skip Terry. He 139 tackles, 61 tackles for loss, and 16 sacks in high school. Um, some of the guys. So we're going to here. We'll talk about the 2 guys I think are going to dominate the 3rd and 4th spots on the edge rotation behind VJ and Wesley Williams. And the first one's going to be Michael Reese. Michael Reese is a grad senior now. He spent this is his 5th season. All 5 have been spent at Duke. He's played in 40 games in his career. He's got 54 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, sack and a half, and he's got 3 pass breakups in his career. So the thing with Michael is, and it's kind of like VJ, he's been here all 5 years, but his time here, he's just there've been defensive line has been like a strength for a while. He's never had a chance to break through. And now you can bring in him as a 5th-year senior who's been at Duke all 5 years to give relief and experience to Wesley Williams and VJ. And I think he's going to I think he would thrive as, kind of the 3rd, 4th guy on the edge rotation to come in, 3 or 4 snaps here, 3 or 4 snaps here kind of guy.
Yeah,
The other
100%.
one, the other one we've got Ryan Smith. Ryan's played he's also a grad senior going on his 5th year here at Duke. He's played in 43 career games, has 48 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, an interception, and 2 pass broken up. I think, I put him similarly to a situation as Michael Reese. I think, you've got your 2 experienced guys coming in at, the 3, 4 spots on the edge to back up Williams and VJ. And I think that's going to be a really strong 4-man group right there. And if you had to pick a 5th, I would assume Kobe Smith is probably the 5th guy, like in the rotation out of all the edge rushers. So, I mean, I think there's your 5 edge rushers. You got, I'll let you say if you think any different on the rotation, but I think those 5 are probably the 5 you can expect to hear the most.
Yeah, I feel like our defensive tackles and stuff as well. And I feel like our rotation with the D line, starter wise, is pretty set. VJ West, Aaron and Kendi Charles, two guys I know we're both high on, and touching on them earlier, especially Kendi. Just there's a lot of talent on the D line, and we have to replace a lot of talent, so that's a very good thing. And I think you nailed it with all the rotation guys, man. I think our D line breakdown is one for the ages, one that'll give the people the knowledge they need. And I hope we're right about most of it. I think we will be. I think we've got playing time and things like that down pat. But the dark horse for me this year that I'm hoping is Kobe Smith. That would be very cool. And we'll see when the season comes around.
Yeah, and the last one we'll touch on here, like Noah said, outside of Malik Murphy, probably the most high profile transfer and probably the most impactful one we'll have this year is Kendi Charles. He comes in from Liberty. He played for Jamie Chadwell, which is a great sign. Those of you that don't know, all due respect to Manny Diaz, I didn't think it was going to actually happen. So me and Noah, along with Eli, our buddy, we all wanted Jamie Chadwell, who's at Liberty right now, to be the next Duke head coach. So getting a player that played for Chadwell, fantastic for me. He's only played in 37 games as a grad transfer, but in 37 games as a defensive tackle, he has 108 tackles, 13 sacks,
It's
22 tackles
crazy.
for loss.
It's crazy. The numbers are crazy.
Like it's wild to think about.
And everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, Conference USA, bro." I don't give a shit who you are. If you're playing defensive tackle slash nose guard and you rack up 108 tackles in 37 games, I got respect. And you got 23 tackles for a loss and 14 sacks, like, bro, that's it. Don't matter where you play. You can play in the Canadian Football League, and I'd be impressed with that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So I mean, kind of the last thing I say about the defensive line is, it's you're going to hear a lot of different names this year. Like if you kind of haven't paid attention in a while, because Jamion's gone, Dwayne's gone, Oben's gone, Peebles is gone. Like those are names you heard a lot in the last year and a half, 2 years. Like they're all gone. So we're transitioning now to a point. But the good news is, with the exception of Kendi Charles, and if Reese and Hall or Smith are both our backup defensive edge rushers, we're not going to lose a single significant contributor this year outside of Charles, realistically. So, like, and we've already talked about 4 or 5 guys. The defensive line is going to be fine. And I think they're in a long term, far better shape than the other side of the ball that, we're going to get into after we break down the American Athletic Conference right here. When we get into the American here, I really, we're not going to cover the whole conference. Realistically, there's only 3 or 4 teams even worth mentioning in the American Athletic as teams that you might hear throughout the year. The first one, me and Noah are both fans of the Green Wave. We love Tulane. Willie Fritz is gone, and he's off to Houston. But Duke fans ought to be familiar with the new guy, John Summerall, because we just, spanked him in our bowl game. He was at Troy for a few years, went 23-4. Tulane's got a pretty rough out of conference schedule. They're playing K-State and Noah's favorite school, the Oklahoma Sooners.
What the fuck is a Sooner?
Ty Thompson, I didn't know this, believe it or not. Oregon's backup quarterback, Ty Thompson, is transferred to Tulane. I didn't know that. So Ty Thompson's playing QB for Tulane now, which is going to make them fun to watch. They also brought in wide receivers from USC, Tennessee, and Alabama in the portal. So like they loaded up on offense.
Brother, it's a good time to ride the green wave. It's a good time to go to New Orleans. There's never actually a bad time to go to New Orleans, but now they've got college football rolling again, and that, my friends, is good for the sport.
And we will be
for
in New
those of you that
Orleans.
don't know, Tulane used to be in the SEC.
That's right.
Tulane also used to be a powerhouse in the SEC. Go ask your great grandpa. Go
And
ask your about it.
I believe Noah will be in New Orleans next year.
We
Is it
will
next
be.
year we go to?
Yep.
I know Tulane's on the schedule again the next 2 or 3 years coming up. And I know we go there.
And next year is the year, 100%. Gonna be down there on Bourbon with the boys.
Yeah, folks, the scumbags are taking over New Orleans next year. We may have to make a blog for that one. That one's going to be an adventure.
We will be bringing everybody a Nashville blog. We promise.
Yeah.
We will provide our best work in Sin City East.
Speaking of Nashville, hell of a segue here by Noah. Noah, I'll let you jump in and bring up Memphis for a second.
Well, I will say this as a man who has drove from North Carolina to Oklahoma before to move his family friends, like pretty much like my little sister, into college at OU. Memphis, once you see Nashville, you already know you're still about 6 hours from Memphis. Long ways away, but let's talk about the team that averaged 40 points a game last year.
That's a lot of points for those of you that don't know.
Yeah. If you can't count higher than 10, which is most state fans that probably listen to this pod, yeah, that's I mean it's impressive to score 40 a game, returning a lot of players. QB was fourth in the FBS with 3,900 passing yards. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's just a crazy stat. Returning 1,000-yard receiver and a 900-yard receiver, 4 offensive line starters. Defense would be kind of like if they can improve on that defense, get it down from the 29 points per game, 400 yards per game allowed. You could see Memphis in a group of 5 end of year like big time game that's going to determine who goes to the playoff for the G5, 100%. Now,
Yeah, I mean,
Tyler, Tyler, I know this is like these people kind of party like you. You're kind of like a Florida guy, but you're a North Carolina dude. Well,
amen.
what's going on down there with the Bulls? What's going on with our boys in UC at USF?
A lot actually, and for those of you that live under a rock and don't follow college football game in and game out every year, USF almost beat Alabama last year. For whatever reason, Alabama decided they were going to play a road game at USF last year and damn near lost it.
Tyler
Um,
Bucknell.
that's right. Now, USF, they scored a lot. Those of you that don't know, like, it's not the proudest program in the world. They had a few good years in the mid 2000s, and then like kind of 2010s, they had one or two good years. But they scored 415 points last year. Quarterback Byron Brown threw for 3,300 yards and 26 TDs, and he rushed for another 811. So like that's
That's
pretty
big
good.
time.
They're bringing back an 800-yard rusher and Naquan Brown, and Purdue transfer Rahman Abdur Yassin. So I mean, they're going to have a good running game. The secondary is going to be good, but again, kind of like Memphis, they allowed 31 points or more 5 times last year. But when they didn't allow 31 points, their defense was rated the fourth best in the American. So like that's a really weird spot to be in. But I will say this before we hit the last team, from the sounds of it, for those of you that just love to watch ball, the American might be a really fun like shootout of a. It's going to feel like the Big 12 of like the 20 teens again, where defense is optional. Just bring your popcorn and expect to watch a shootout for 4 quarters.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's something kind of exciting with the American. Last year, the American was just kind of there wasn't much going on outside of Tulane. And there's another team, kind of a sleeper. Great head coach, great school, great campus, great vibe. UTSA, the Roadrunners. University of Texas San Antonio, for all of you that are geographically challenged. The Roadrunners head coach is Jeff Traylor. If you know ball, you know Jeff Traylor is an absolute college football, like, I mean, it's a legend. Brand new starting five on the offensive line. That's a scary thing. Not that good, but if it can be overcame, they have some really solid players coming in. They have a really great defense. And with the recruiting staff and some of the transfers they've got coming in, you could see this team, fly around for an 8-4, 9-3, maybe upset one of the big three in the conference. It'll be really interesting to see what the Roadrunners do.
Yeah, before we get into the SEC, leaving the American with Jeff Traylor. For those of you like, he is going to be a power four, I guess we call it now, rip the pack two. He is going to be a big time football coach one day. Like the fact he's not already is kind of odd. He's kind of like, throw back to the last episode where we talked about Toledo and Coach Candle. Those are two guys where like you might as well go ahead and get used to hearing their names because they are going to be two big time coaches whenever they decide to make that jump. And those guys are so good that they're staying at these schools because they know I'm going to handpick what power job I want to go get one day. Like, what a flex that is to say, I'm going to stay with the Roadrunners because I think this job is better than your job. And I know I'm going to get a better one next year. Like, that's what a power move, really.
Yeah, 100%. There's, like we said, scumbags love all football, and we can't wait to see what they do in the American this year.
Now, going into the SEC, we're going to run down. We're going to do our top 4 teams in the SEC. We're also going to cover a fifth one, one that I think we both have a lot of thoughts on. Those of you that live under a rock, Nick Saban is out at Alabama, and replacing Nick Saban is Kalen DeBoer. Now, for those of you that think that name might sound familiar, it's because he just took the Washington Huskies to the national championship game this past year. It's not going to be easy. This is crazy to think about. Wait till you hear this number, Noah. Alabama lost 40 players off of last year's roster between the portal and the draft. That is not a typo. 40 players are gone. However, Jalen Milroe is back at quarterback. he's not the best thrower, but the dude is electric as a playmaker in terms of on the ground. Justice Haynes is a 5-star sophomore running back who everyone down there is very high on. No shocker here. Bama's going to have a good offensive line. I didn't realize this is kind of a neat move here. Kane Womack, who was the South Alabama head coach and was doing pretty good at South Alabama, and kind of had the Jaguars turned around for a year or two there, has taken the defensive coordinator spot at Bama now. And they're going from a 3-4 to a 4-2-5, which will maybe cause some headaches learning the system in year one until they can get some more of their guys in there. The defense will still be okay. Bama, they're still talented because it's Alabama. I don't think they're going to be a threat to win the SEC, but I'm not going to bet against them to make a 12-team college football playoff. That's where I'm at with them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. It's like, oh, they're dead now. It's like, no, they're not. They're Bama at worst is 10-2 this year. At best, they're undefeated. I mean, it's you might as well, if you're sick of Bama, you might as well just quit watching the game because DeBoer was the best guy for the job. I don't care what any Florida State fan tells you, whatever they say that Alabama came calling to try and get old shithead from FSU to come over. They didn't. They they didn't do that. I do think the Dan Manning idea was real. I think that was a possibility Bama looked into, but I think they got the guy they wanted. I don't think there's any question about that. And speaking of Saban's successor, let's talk about another Saban successor, but in another way. A member of the coaching tree. A son of Nick Saban, as if you will. Has he been involved in some drama? Yes.
Oh, buddy.
Has he cheated on his wife and slept with some sorority girls twice? Yes. Is he the coolest guy on Twitter? Yes.
Yeah.
Did he ruin 2 programs that kind of deserve to be ruined? Yes. Has he fixed his life and turned around a program that deserved to be turned around? Yes. And with all those context clues, if your answer was Lane Kiffin, you are correct. All aboard the Lane train, folks. Ole Miss is hot. Everything going on, come to the sip, as old Lane would say. Hashtag come to the sip. Lane used to be a bad, bad man. We're talking bad. He was bad off in more ways than we can count. The guys had batteries and golf balls thrown at him by fans, by students, by everything. And Tyler, can you have a TV in the background on my mic?
No.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to check. My bad.
No, you're good.
I told her to go sit on the couch.
No, I can't hear it. You're straight.
While Daddy's at work. But anyways, let's talk about what's going on down there in the SIP. Jackson Dart back at quarterback. Dart's the truth, man. He's a pure passer quarterback. He's exactly what Lane Kiffin's offenses thrive on. Only threw 5 picks last year. Very, very good at limiting turnovers, which is huge in the SEC. That wins ball games right there because it's so close and so competitive from top to bottom. 5 interceptions can make or break, 9 of the games on the schedule. Could have went the other way if there were some more picks, So good for him. Trey Harris and South Carolina transfer Antoine Wells, both NFL caliber guys at the running back position. Got a huge transfer with Quinshawn Judkins. He's a Buckeye now. Wait, what? Yeah, sorry. Quinshawn Judkins is probably their biggest loss this year. Transferred to Ohio State. But Ole Miss has a 3-man rotation. I think they're going to be fine. They don't really pride themselves on running the ball too much anyway. Definitely a good passing team. That's how they're set up. Defensively, Lane has loaded up, knows what he needs to do to be successful. And I know, not trying to speak for both of us, but I believe both of us could say that this is an 11-1, 12-0, 10-2 football team, without a doubt. And the floor is like 10-2. Like even underperforming, they're that good.
Yeah, I genuinely think that we're going to get into the other teams too, but Ole Miss is easily one of the best four teams in the SEC this year. Lane Kiffin, like, say what you will about his character and some of the stuff he's done in the past, the dude wins. Like, NIL and the transfer portal were made for Lane Kiffin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that dude is just a dude, like the best dude in the world. Like, this was made for him. Um, it's perfect. Like you said, I think Jackson Dart. I'm with you. The dude is just a baller.
That's my high
And,
dude. I mean, he's a Heisman candidate for me this year. Like I easily see Jackson Dart being in the Final Four.
and the scary thing is, as good as Dart is, he's probably the third best quarterback in the SEC. Like
Yeah,
that's how
I would
that's
say,
how deep it is.
and I would say 1 through 3 are also interchangeable week to week.
Oh, absolutely. Um, so yeah, I'm with you. Like the Rebels are going to be disgustingly good. And speaking of one of the other best quarterbacks in the SEC, I don't know if you guys know this, the Georgia Bulldogs are going to be good. Uh, However, this is wild to think about, Noah. For the first time since the start of the 2021 football season, Georgia isn't the defending national champion. It has been,
That is a stat. That's a I mean it's you got game recognized game. You know what I mean? And Georgia is at the top of the game right now.
and before I even get into what they've lost and what they're bringing in, just think about this. Kirby Smart now has fuel and motivation again. Like now, it's a whole lot easier for him to get under the guys and motivate them again because they lost. Like now they've got more reason. And not only did they lose, Georgia didn't make the playoff last year.
Yeah,
So
Florida
like
State.
we're getting ready to see Pitt. Yeah, sorry, Florida State fans. They did kind of wax you guys.
Yeah,
Not sorry
like
at all.
don't ever tell me Florida State was the fifth best team in the country and the first to be left out because they weren't. The Georgia Bulldogs were, and there was no doubt about it. Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
like
it's just that's how the cookie crumbled.
and now Kirby Smart is pissed off and has fuel, which is terrifying for the whole world. Despite the fact that he's 42-2 in the last 3 years, this might be the best team they've had. Um, Dominic Lovett and Arian Smith returned at wide receiver, and Colby Young out of Miami's transferred in, and that's a sneaky pickup. Trevor Etienne comes in at running back from Florida. That's a monumental get.
And he
And
already got a DUI at Georgia.
yeah,
Yes.
if
Kirby,
we
sign the Uber NIL deal, bro. You got to save these guys' lives. Put them in
yeah,
an Uber, Kirby.
as much talent as Georgia has, they probably all need to once a week take like a driving class and what to do, what not to do. They do bring their six top offensive linemen back, which is absurd for like an SEC program at that level to have something like that happen. They've got some turnover on defense, but the front seven will be fine. The secondary lost three starters, so that's going to be curious how that plans out. But Carson Beck's going to, he'll be a first round draft pick this coming up year. He could have been one last year, but he opted to come back to Georgia. Uh, like the dogs are the dogs. I think the three other teams that we're talking about between Ole Miss and the next two are kind of playing to see who's going to play Georgia in Atlanta. I I would it would be an upset of all upsets if Georgia's not playing for the SEC championship game. But one of the reasons they couldn't be is I'll let Noah take the reins on this next one. He's probably got a lot to say about this team.
Yeah, for those that don't know, there's a new sheriff in town, boys. There's a new SEC, and that new SEC contains the Longhorns. And
Texas is back.
I'm just gonna go ahead and put this out there for those that don't know, for those that might not like it, and I really don't care if you do or not. I'll always be a Duke fan first. I'll always be a fan of my sweet precious Appalachian State University and their football team.
Roll years.
Roll damn near as hard. But growing up, my mother was a huge Texas fan. And I watched Texas football religiously from the time I was about 4 years old. Still do, still keep up with them like they're my number one team. I literally just don't talk about it as much. It ruffles some feathers in the Duke community. Oh well, take my season tickets away and I'll quit donating NIL and I'll just take it over to Texas. But Quinn Ewers, Steve Sarkisian, Isaiah Bond, Malik Muhammad. We're talking about some of the best people, players, coaches in the country. This team is hot. Texas said they were back for many years. Texas was not back. And as a fan, I'll say that. They were never back. Never back with Charlie, never back with Herman. They weren't back with Mac after the Colt McCoy disaster and how awful he managed that situation. The decline was real. And Sam Ellinger got lucky and beat Georgia in a Sugar Bowl once. That did not mean nothing. Coach Sarkisian, another guy from that Alabama Nick Saban legacy tree. Also, a scumbag. Just absolute, back in the day, was a terrible person, like Lane Kiffin. What'd he do? Went and got ran out of town at another job, went and got the help he needed in life, made changes, and now he's the head coach at the University of Texas. Those boys are electric. Let's go ahead and dive into Quinn Ewers. Year 3, Heisman frontrunner. Everybody's talking about losing Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, Jonathan Brooks, all these NFL guys. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a football game that happened last year that many of you probably watched called Auburn, Alabama. It's the Iron Bowl. Game-winning touchdown pass from Jalen Milroe to the back of the corner to an All-American receiver at the University of Alabama. You know what his name was? Isaiah Bond. When was the last time the number one receiver for Alabama left not to go to the NFL, but to go to another school? The answer is never. And Isaiah Bond is the best receiver in college football. You lose Adonai and Worthy, but when you're as good as Texas is, you reload recruiting and you reload through the portal. You have unlimited money. You have unlimited resources. Everything you need to be the team is there. And last year they made that big step from, making a bowl game, winning a bowl game, making a better bowl game, winning a better bowl game, making the playoffs and losing a semifinal, just like Michigan was. Texas is a team this coming year that you shouldn't, there's no reason you wouldn't have them in the playoff. There's no reason you couldn't see them as an SEC champion. It's just loaded top to bottom. And what Sark's doing out there, what the NIL program's doing, everything that's going on. Shout out our guy, Ashton Bailey, too. He's also like a UT and Duke guy on Twitter. Great guy from Texas. Believe goes to Duke. Awesome guy. He gets it. He knows it. And the horns are up, baby. You ain't gonna saw off the horns. That's just how it is. And flex your horns down as much as you want. It really don't bother nobody. It's just kind of stupid. And have fun watching them go 12-0 this year. Play Michigan on the road week. What is it, Tyler? Week 2, I think.
Yeah, it's week 2 or 3. It's really early.
How electric is that? Texas and Michigan at the Big House, like that could go down as game of the year right there. Then you got Texas versus Georgia. There's a lot of good SEC games that we're gonna have a lot of fun watching this year.
Yeah, no doubt. Like you said, yes, Texas lost a lot. They're Texas. They've reloaded. So long as everyone plays to the potential they've shown playing at in their previous stops, Texas is going to be fine. I think Texas's defense isn't getting enough recognition. I think Texas probably got a top 3 defense in the SEC this year.
Oh, 100%, dude. Not to try to cut it, but Anthony Hill Jr. True freshman All-American, returning start linebacker who played in every game last year, essentially probably going to be a captain this year. Like, you get you an anchor like that in the middle at a young age, like, you're set. There's good things coming.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at with Texas. and the last name we're gonna bring up, no one knows this guy very well. The
Oh yeah,
Missouri, the Missouri Tigers. For those of you that don't know, Missouri won 11 games last year.
and the
Um,
Orange Bowl.
that's right. Head coach Elia Drinkwitz is back, aka Drink. For those of you that know ball, the Tigers and it's a good thing he won because he was kind of getting a hot seat down there, and then out of nowhere, Missouri finally got over the hump. Averaged 33 points a game last year. This is wild. Missouri had 6 turnovers all season long.
That's phenomenal.
That is the crazy 6 turnovers in a 12-game football. Well, they played 13 games. In 13 games, you had 12 turnovers. That is just wild to think, or 6 turnovers.
Yeah,
That's
half a
wild
turnover
to
a
think
game.
about.
Half a
Like,
turnover a game average. How crazy is that?
and as previously discussed with quarterback play, if it wasn't for the fact that Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, and Jackson Dart were in the SEC, Brady Cook would be the best quarterback in the SEC. He's coming back for his third year. In his first 2 years, he's completed 66% of all of his passes ever thrown in college. Luther Burton III is the best wide receiver in the country. We're talking like all-time receiver type talent. The dude is a stud. Nate and another Noah guy,
Let,
Nate
let me
Noel.
let me let me cover old Nate. This is my boy here. I've had a beer with old Nate before, Tyler. He
I'm
is
a
an
Nate
old
fan. I love watching him
he's
play.
he's an old man. Not gonna lie to you. Bro's been doing this college football thing for a while. I've had the pleasure of seeing Nate play multiple times up at App. I've had a couple beers at Ale House. Dude's a trip. Dude's a great guy. Phenomenal human being. Did a lot for the Appalachian State football program in his time there. Great running back, a part of a lot of great wins. And he was a guy that Drink recruited to kind of tie this back into Drink. For those that don't know, Coach Drink used to be at App State. And
Roll damn near.
he kind of, whenever App made the transition to FBS, Drink was the guy that really took it and ran with it. App every year since App made the transition. I think there was 1 year since they've been in FBS, and now they've almost been there for, I believe it's 9 seasons now, 8 or 9 in total. I think we're going into the ninth, and they've only missed a bowl game once. And it was the year
Wow.
after Drink left, and it was Sean Clark's first season. So, like, and that was a complete different program back then. I mean, like, we lost everything in those years. Drink, I mean, like, he came on the scene and he was like, "You're gonna give me an FBS team. I'm gonna win FBS caliber games," and just went crazy. And you know, say what you want, but the dude beat North Carolina and South Carolina in the same season, both on the road. Like, impressive, very
Football school.
impressive. Football school. I mean, that's dude. It's everything. I mean, I've lived it. Like, I mean, that's what it is up the mountain, man. Like, football genuinely means more. And like, it's kind of what we got to hold on to. And it's pretty cool to see a guy like Drink take guys that he recruited and let them develop it out, win it out, get their 4 year degree, and then come give them a chance to go to Mizzou and possibly get some NFL exposure and things like that, with also a chance to go win a national championship like Nate Noel. And Nate, I'm gonna tag in this when we drop the pod, but man, hoping for the best for you, expecting 1,000 yards minimum. And I'll tell you, like, Tyler, Nate Noel is a dog. Like, he was going to get
Oh yeah.
drafted regardless if he transferred or not. But now we're looking at, like, good season here. We're talking first, second round pick.
Oh, easy. And it's going to help him that he's got 3 returning offensive linemen, SEC caliber offensive linemen returning to run behind. I mean, I think Missouri averaged 33 points a game last year. I expect as many, if not more, from the offense this year. I think they've upgraded substantially running back. The defense, wasn't the best, wasn't the worst. But when you average 33 points a game, you don't really need it to be. However, They did lose a lot. They're adding like 9 players total from the portal in on that side of the ball. And if this isn't I don't know personally, but if Johnny Walker, who is a defensive edge rusher and is a pretty damn good one, he's an SEC ball player. And if he doesn't have an NIL deal from Johnny Walker, that is such a golden missed chance right there. Would be
He
one of the
deserves a blue
all-time
label.
fumbles.
Get that man a glass of Blue Label, man. Get him something nice. Pour it on the rocks. Get a little Johnny. I agree,
That would
man.
be an all-time bag fumble. And so before we get into our little list for the day, that's kind of where we're at with the SEC. I'm gonna say it. I want to pull the trigger. I can't. I think Texas plays Georgia in Atlanta. I think Georgia's just really, really pissed off. I
You
don't
want
think
to?
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
go
do
ahead.
Georgia. I'm gonna take the Bulldogs to beat Texas in the SEC championship game.
My championship game is an undefeated Texas and an undefeated Missouri.
Man, I wanted to go Missouri. I couldn't pull the trigger. I couldn't do it.
Both those teams have it set up that could happen. Mizzou a little more so. Get past Bama. That's really about it for them this year. Kind of a good schedule I have. Ole Miss as well, got to get past them, but I think Mizzou's the better team. I think you're going to see undefeated Texas, undefeated Mizzou, and I think you're going to see a one-loss Georgia team not make it to the conference championship. 1 or 2 loss Ole Miss and a 1 or 2 loss Bama not make it, but you could see all 5 of those teams in the playoff, and you should probably prepare for it. If you're an
Yeah.
SEC hater, you should probably prepare to hate your life because you cannot tell me that a 10-2, 10-2, 11-1, 11-1, 12-0 wouldn't get in with those resumes. Like it's impossible.
Absolutely.
So, buckle up. I know it's cliche and everybody hates it, but it just means more in the SEC, and that's true in football.
And not to diss Texas. If you take Texas out of the SEC this year is still 5.
Loaded.
Their top 5 are still better than everyone in the country not named Ohio State or Oregon.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
it's deep.
SEC is better now than it's ever been.
That's the scary part.
Texas.
That's the scary part.
They're kind of irrelevant right now still.
Well, I think you'll see OU go like 7-5, 6-6 this year, but I'd say about 2 or 3 years you'll see them get right back up to where they were, and they'll be competing. Venables is the guy. I think he's so defensive minded, and he's just a lot better guy than Lincoln was. He's more Stoops oriented, and I think that's what I think that's what's going to pay off for OU is going with a guy that's more like what the greatness was, and the Stoops and the Stoops of the world and things like that, and the back in the Billy Sims days and all those kind of guys. And I think Venables will get them back there. I think they're in a situation where they probably needed 1 or 2 more years of prep to go to the SEC, but they're getting thrown in there with the Wolves, but thrown in there with the Wolves for them is like 7 wins. You know what I mean? And that would be the end of the world to an Oklahoma fan, but they're going to be just fine. Not worried about OU. I think they'll be the SEC, like you said, it's better than ever, and that's terrifying considering Nick Saban just retired. And you could say the SEC is better than it's ever been.
7 wins in the SEC is nothing to scoff at.
7 wins in the SEC is going to the conference championship in the ACC. I will argue that till I'm blue in the face. If Mississippi State went 7-5 or 8-4 this year, they would damn near be guaranteed to be 11-1 or undefeated in the ACC.
Oh yeah,
argue with a wall. It's like. I'm not, and I don't, everybody's like, oh, you're just glazing the SEC. No, I respect good football, and that's what they do. And they do it to the highest level, and every brand is huge, and the experience and the game days, and we've lived it. We've both gone to SEC football games. I've been pleasure to go to quite a few, and it's very cool. It's the experience. It just feels different. Like when they say it just means more, that's true.
It does.
You can feel it in the air that people as just a casual SEC fan that I don't care who would win the game or anything. you could tell that the people are there for like their school and team. It literally will make or break them, and like in a different way, like in a different way than it makes or breaks us if Duke loses to Virginia Tech or if Duke loses to Pitt or something. Like not even rivalry games. Like if South Carolina goes to play, let's just say Texas A&M and they lose, that's going to ruin a South Carolina fan's month.
Well, losing to Mike Elko should ruin everyone's month because he's terrible at his job.
Yeah, he didn't even deserve to be talked about on this because they're literally going 4-8 this year. You guys could bookmark that too. Come back to it. You're welcome. They will literally go 4-8. I've looked at the schedule. It's one of the easier ones, and they'll still suck.
And, speaking of the Gamecocks, so we had an idea that our little list today, we were going to do a combination of the American and the SEC and kind of name the top party schools out of those two conferences. We kind of had a few narrowed down, but I didn't put this one down because I forgot about them. The Gamecocks have to be up there. Man,
Oh,
they know how to get down in Columbia for sure.
And shout out our boy Greg Heffley, USC student right now, and he's a Duke fan, but he also embodies the Gamecocks, and I'll give it to him, man. Them boys down there in Columbia are buck wild.
Yeah, they know how to get down. Like or not understand, man. Sandstorm and Williams Bryce at a night kick, like it's just unmatched.
Hey, brother,
Like
it's a
nothing.
different feeling for sure. You
Yeah,
see
like
them
it's
towels go up in the air all in sync. Like you see 100,000 people doing that in sync. You're just like, wow, this is a spectacle. It's like, I
yeah,
mean, it's genuinely so cool.
like it's wild
And,
to think about.
party this, party that. How about we party hard? And that's Ole Miss, baby. Ole
Admit.
Miss. Not only is Lane crashing sorority parties, but man, they all are. The entire world down there. The SIP is the place to be for boozing. And I if there's a place I'd say I wish I'd go to a tailgate soon and if Texas plays them on the road or maybe South Carolina, something like that, I'd be enticed enough to go do it. But I'd love to make a trip down to Ole Miss.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Google the Grove one time. Uh, it is legitimately like the biggest collective tailgate in America. Like it's just wild. It's every person who attends the game just hangs out in one giant spot, and they all just like have a time. The Rebels know how to get down for sure. And another team, we'll go over to the American real quick. We'll keep it local with this one. The East Carolina Pirates.
Game
While
recognized
you
game.
while you may contract several minor to severe STDs if you make the trip to Greenville, you will at least have fun while down there. They do know how to have a good time. Credit when you're as bad at football for 30 years as they have been, by default, like you got to do something to get the pain through you, which is why it baffles me that Duke doesn't have a better football tailgate scene. Because if anyone's had an excuse to drink their pains away, it's Duke football fans for the last 20, 30 years. Yeah, I mean ECU loves to have a good time, and they know how to do it right. I got to give them their props.
Yeah, like you said, you're gonna come home with some things you wish you never knew about, and
Yeah, it's gonna burn when you pee your first day back home from Greenville.
you're gonna have to scoop together that copay amount because you're heading to the ER, buddy. You're heading to the ER. Go ahead and grab that Blue Cross Blue Shield card, buddy, because it's time to go get the test. We'll keep it over in the old AAC because this is one I have the utmost respect for. The Big Green Wave.
Amen.
I want to tell y'all something. Their football scene, tailgates and stuff is great. Their party scene during the school year, phenomenal. Mardi Gras is an event in itself, but Mardi Gras as a college student at Tulane must be the craziest thing ever. I don't know if anybody ever seen the picture, but as a mountaineer, dabbled in a couple of whippets before. Sue me, shoot me, unfollow the pod. I know, Satanist. Ooh, the big bad Noah. Well, folks, there's a picture out there from this last year, and hopefully we can get it clipped together where it'll show on here. there are over like 10,000 Whippet cartridges all over the ground of a fucking like 20 by 20 grass mud lot that they were just standing in and hitting whippets and drinking. Like it's a party. Like, I mean, just unreal. Coolest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean it's New Orleans, Tulane, like, and like I said, the thing for them is every day is Mardi Gras down there for them. Like it's like they treat every day like that, which is wild. Like it's just I aspire for that to be like people talk about my like our school and our fan base like they do Tulane and New Orleans. Um, the last one you could kind of go a few different places with it. I'm gonna pick Roll Damn Tide.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. Clear
and
cut number five to me.
people like to give Bama fans a hard time and say they're not rowdy and all this stuff. I'll be damned. Alabama fans are some of the rowdiest people, like party wise and just like as a person. Alabama loses one football game and people call Nick Saban like Satan and a domestic terrorist for fun. Like it is a different breed with those people. And first off, Roll Tide Willie, they've got him. So that tells you all you need to know about him. Like he's the epitome of every Bama fan. They don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide, and they want to drink Miller Lite. That's it.
I hate all the people that like comment on his things and like when Alabama like because like the university and the football team like has actually like brought him into practices and like done some
Oh
cool
yeah,
stuff for him because like I mean nobody like that ever gets a chance. I can think of that and that's with every school. You see some of these fans that are a little out there, just a little under the weather type deal and they never get the light of day brought to them. And I think it's really cool that Roll Tide Willie has gotten accepted, like as like a member of that community. But so many people like that aren't Bama fans will comment on those videos and say like this is a bad look for Alabama. Like you think Bama cares? You think Bama
right.
cares? Have you ever watched CBS SEC kickoff? They have great culture, great food, great people. Like it's an awesome school. It's a good time. The people that cheer for them are nice. Like Duke, Alabama, and Atlanta. First interaction. Nice people. Like genuinely good, kind-hearted. Not gonna get mad at you and scream and fight and stuff like that. And I'm sure it's different against like their SEC opponents, but like to us, just the kindest people in the world.
Yeah, it's very easy for someone not to be nice to Duke fans. So whenever we get a chance to brag about fan bases that are, we're going to take advantage of it. And just to any fan base out there, we can be bought. Like you can absolutely bribe us to talk good about your fan base, and it's very easy. Um, you can very much pay for our services. Uh, so we'll get to the mailbag real quick because we've got some exciting news to bring you guys at the end of this episode. Um, it's a short mailbag, so we'll lead off with our butt man. I love this guy, Ricky Calhoun on Twitter.
Rick,
Our boy Ricky. Ricky says,
Rick,
"Can Ole Miss win the SEC?" And we kind of
yes,
already discussed it, and I feel like the answer is simply put, hell yes. And I
yeah,
think they have a very, very good chance to win the
yeah,
SEC.
best shot they've had in my lifetime. I can tell you that much. I can tell you that much right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're top four in the odds to win it for sure, and it's a close top four. Like it's those
They're
four we
all
mentioned.
interchangeable, man. Like I don't think you could put any of them above each other. They're just so damn good.
Like yeah, it's crazy. There's a clear top 4 or 5, and then there's like a clear defined like tier 2 this year. But in years past, that line might be 2 teams. Like it was just Bama, Georgia, and hey, LSU might have a good year and might pull off an upset, or Heupel in Tennessee might be able to upset Bama, but they'll probably still won't get there this year. There are 4 teams that like it. You could bet on any 4 of those teams to get to Atlanta, and it wouldn't be like bad money. They'd all be smart bets. Um, so yeah, they can definitely make it. Another one, our boy, he's changed his username on us. He's now New York Blue Devil, but our buddy Ryan Parsons always comes in with some banger questions. He says, "Who was Duke's top defensive lineman to watch for?" I feel like we've both kind of covered that. We both love Wes Williams, but we also kind of hope Kobe breaks out. I'm gonna say, another one to watch out for is Preston Watson. But he says, I like this question. What is wrong with USC? For those of you that don't know, that is the University of South Carolina and Florida. Now, I'm gonna touch for South Carolina first because I don't think anything's necessarily wrong with them. Uh, you know, Beamer ball, Shane Beamer, like love Shane Beamer, epitome of swag.
Love
Like that
Shane.
dude,
This
I
pod loves
love
Shane.
I love some Shane Beamer. But the issue with South Carolina is I don't know if you've seen their schedule or not, Noah, but let me just read it to you real quick.
It's brutal, but let's go through it because it's tough.
So Old Dominion, they'll be favored by a couple of touchdowns. They go
Yeah, it's a
to
53-point spread.
yeah, they go to Kentucky. No,
Ugh.
like it's
Ugh.
that'll be a weird game.
Week 2 playing in the SEC on the road. That's tough.
And then you get Go Tigers, LSU at home, week 3 on a noon kickoff.
Oh, God.
Like
Wow, on
that's
earth.
just such a odd spot to be in. And then the Akron Zips come into town. That'll be
Hey,
another
yeah.
53-point spread.
You give me the
And
money in
then,
that one.
buddy, the shit hit the fan. In back-to-back weeks, you get the Ole Miss Rebels at
Shoot.
home, and then you go to Alabama the
Oh,
week after you
gosh.
get Ole
Oh,
Miss at home.
gosh. Oh, gosh.
And after that, after you get done going to Alabama, you got to go to Norman. And
Oh, yeah. Hey, I've
and,
been there.
we both think Oklahoma's going to be down. That's not an easy place to play in, no matter what. Like that's a Norman's a tough road environment.
No, you've seen the pictures I've sent in the chat from my game at Norman I went to, and man, Gaylord Memorial is like as much as I don't like Oklahoma, and like God bless my extended family and stuff, but like I'm not an Oklahoma fan. Gaylord Memorial and that town in itself is so college football. Like man, it's a trip, and it's packed house. Like you want to talk about actual sellouts, like when they say they sell out and you don't see an empty seat. OU does it, man. That's a tough place to play at.
Yeah, so 3 weeks straight, you get Ole Miss, then at Bama, at Oklahoma. That's I don't care who you are, man. That's brutal. And what's your consolation prize after that? You get A&M at home. That's a winnable game.
Yeah, it's a
Then
dub.
then you go to Vanderbilt. That's probably a
Okay,
dub.
back to back, getting on track a little bit there.
And then the Missouri Tigers come into town.
God, that's brutal.
Then you get Wofford. So that's a
Okay,
nice
that's the
little
fifth
3 weeks.
win right there. That's
And
that.
then you get
Uh,
the Palmetto Bowl. You go to Death Valley to end the year.
okay, yeah, they're gonna be playing Clemson for bowl eligibility. That's insane.
Yeah, and
Oh man.
I'll say this. I'm sure South Carolina fans don't want to celebrate a 7-win season. If South Carolina gets to 7 wins with that schedule,
It's a
they need to
natty.
they need
It's
to
a
celebrate
natty.
like hell.
Yeah, I will personally go to Columbia with you to celebrate because like that if like I South Carolina's a team, if they're on the TV and like playing, I'm more than likely gonna root for them. Going to game, like being able to say I've been to a game there, watched the South Carolina. Speaking of the team we're getting ready to talk about next, Florida, that's who I went and saw. A big rivalry game, very cool. Um, you know, I'll root for them, but like, man, 7 wins with that schedule feels like a Super Bowl for me. Like, I mean, just a Super Bowl. And speaking of the Florida Gators, I'll keep this a little short and sweet because I genuinely think this is just a consensus opinion by people that know ball. Napier sucks. They can't recruit. They can't keep kids smart enough to stay eligible, and they have a tough schedule. So Florida's 3-9 at best this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Florida ever since really you can go back to when Urban left. They haven't been the same since he left.
Yeah.
They had Will Muschamp in there for a few years. He did okay.
Will
The
Muschamp
whole
was Satan.
the whole Jim McElwain thing was a shit show. You
Everything
could
they've done sucked.
Yeah, they oh I can't. Dan Mullen, he came in for a few years. Like it's
I
just
love Dan, but he was a coordinator. He was a coordinator, man.
yeah, like it's
He,
just just a weird. There's
Napier's
just
not
like
the
a weird
guy.
spot. Florida is becoming Nebraska all over again in the
Oh,
sense of
yeah, and Nebraska's hot.
yeah, like Florida's getting ready to become Nebraska, where you wonder like, man, they were so good for so long. What happened to them? Like I think we could be getting ready to see like a really dark period for the Gators where they might be bad for 5 or 6 years before things get right because
Yeah.
I think they're in a spot where they've just made so many wrong like coaching hires. They need to just clean house and reset like the whole program right now.
They are
Like I
on
think it's in such
Vanderbilt
a
upset
bad
alert,
state. Oof, yeah.
and that is never where you want to be. You don't want
No.
to be the SEC team that hands one to Vandy for the fourth win. You know what I mean? Setting over. But it
Yeah, so I
happens
mean,
every year, just
so
about,
Ryan,
and it'll be Florida.
so Ryan, to answer your question, I don't think necessarily anything's wrong with South Carolina other than the SEC schedule makers. Shane Beamer must have like slept with their wife or something. And Florida,
Shane.
as far as Florida goes, there's a lot wrong with them, starting with Napier. Uh, and we've covered this one. Jalen Sexton asked us predictions for OU and Texas in their first season in the SEC.
Shout out
Like we've said,
Jalen.
like we've
That's
said,
that's my boy.
I feel like we've hit the head on the nail with that one. OU is probably a 7-win team. Texas is Texas if they don't make the college football playoff it's been a
Oh,
disaster.
that's
And,
yeah, they're on fire if that's the case. Texas is a national championship favorite for sure. But shout out Jalen serving our country up in Chicago right now. It's my boy, my little brother. He's good kid. Everybody give him a follow. That'd be pretty cool.
at
Uh,
Jalen_Sexton on Twitter for those of you that are
goat,
serious.
good kid, big time in the Navy, young man, big NASCAR fan as well. Huge OU fan. It was his sister that when I went out with their family and stuff to go move her in, and we all went to the game and stuff. They've showed me around Norman to the best way anybody could see it, and so a lot of love for the Sexton family. Good peeps.
And so, next question here. BDC, Blue Devil Center on Twitter. He says, out of the two new members, who's going to have the best long term success in the SEC? And, we're going to ride with Texas.
Both. Yeah, but both is the answer.
And he says, furthermore, which coaches in the SEC are on the hot seat? Billy's obviously the first one. Like, I think Billy C's even on fire. Like, Billy is on fire himself right now.
Oh yeah. It's all the shit.
Outside of Napier, let's see. Let's run through. Brian Kelly, he's fine. Heupel's fine. Stoops just got an extension. Beamer, that schedule's brutal.
Beamer's fine. They know Beamer's the guy in South Carolina. They saw enough shit with Muschamp and after Spurrier, like they know it won't get no better than Shane Beamer. I'm not worried about him.
Kirby Smart's not going anywhere. Venables and Sark
He
are
just
both.
signed he just signed an extension. Sark
They're
just signed
both.
an extension.
They're not going anywhere. Um,
DeBoer's locked. They're gonna love him. He won't ever leave till he retires. It's gonna be the
and
same thing there.
Jeff Levy just got to Mississippi State.
He's a great offensive mind. I think that was a great hire. I think Levy was a solid pickup there.
So I mean, really, other than Napier, I don't expect hardly anything. Well, Clark Lee's been at Vandy for 3 years now, so this could be the year they let go of him if they don't see anything.
Yeah, this is probably make or break for him. But they do have a. I was looking at Vandy, and I think they get a bowl this year. I think it's pretty favorable. I could see it.
So I
I
mean,
mean, or at least 5 wins.
there's not much. The SEC's pretty tame in terms of coaching changes, unless people leave that don't
When
get
you're
fired.
when you're winning so many games and as a conference and you're that good, there ain't many coaching changes going on unless it's retirement for sure.
I mean, really, the only guy you got to watch out for here is old Billy Stooge, who again, I,
He's
I,
already out the door.
yeah, I don't see a world where Florida would have to make the SEC championship game for probably because the fans already want him gone. The fans wanted him gone the second he got hired.
They've raised money to buy him out. The university won't accept it yet, but they've
Like
literally offered to buy it out.
they wanted him gone the second he got hired, which is funny to think about. So I mean, outside of that, yeah, he's probably the closest to a surefire getting fired there is. Let's see who's next. Our buddy Krim. Let's see if we got. There's one more before we get to Krim's question. Okay, so Chris McLaughlin, Chris M. Durham, and our boy Krim Roy. Shout out Krim. He's done wonders for our TikTok account we've made. He does all kinds of cool edits for us.
They're
Make sure
so
you're following us
sick.
on socials, by the way. Uh, we're on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, all GA Scumbags. So you find us, you'll look us up, you'll see us. They both ask, will Duke's offensive line be accurate in relation to college football 25? So for those of you that don't know, and Noah hasn't played with them yet, I have. Playing with Duke on college football 25, their offensive line, you could stick 5 Helen Kellers out there, and the 5 Helen Kellers have a better shot of protecting Malik Murphy's poor soul back there. If Duke's offensive line is as bad as the game predicts it to be, Duke won't win a game this year. Like Duke will go 0-12 if the offensive line is bad.
Elon's hanging 100.
Yeah, and speaking of offensive line, before we wrap things up right here, Noah, you wanna tell the pod what's going on?
Yeah,
Why we
so
cover offensive line today?
some pretty big news. We sent out a message to John Fina, former Arizona Wildcat and Buffalo Bill legend. Also played for the Arizona Cardinals. Both his sons, well, one plays currently at Duke, one is committed to Duke. He is an offensive lineman from the NFL, knows a lot of ball, coached his, sure, gave his kids pointers. I can't say for sure, but I'm sure he coached them along the way. And we reached out to him. He follows the pod, really great guy to follow, and asked if he would like to come on. And he has agreed to. And we are currently in the works of trying to schedule that for this coming week. And we figured instead of us talking offensive line, we would let John come in and talk offensive line with us, give you guys some really great insight, give you guys some things you probably wouldn't know without his kind of knowledge and the wisdom he has of the game of football, and just hear a little bit about his story, what he does, his career, let him talk about his sons, Bruno and Roman, just get a deep dive with them. And it's pretty cool. We are trying to get that scheduled for you guys next week, but as you guys know, everything's busy. So if that has to happen in maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks, just bear with us. But we will have an offensive lineman episode. And John also sent us a text and asked us if we would be interested in having him on, every couple of weeks throughout the season to give you guys information like on the development of how the offensive line's doing over the year. Kind of like a maybe every other month wrap up of what we've seen and what we've improved on or what we still need to improve on. So a lot of excitement. Really glad to have him on, and just be checking the socials for the post, confirming dates and things like that. But really cool opportunity, and we're both really psyched and really appreciative, and really appreciative of all you guys that listen and follow along with us as well.
Yeah, again, I say this every episode. Noah says it every episode, but I can't stress enough how much it means to us that the outpour of support, that followings on Twitter, likes on the videos, views on our videos. Like our TikTok's averaging 700 views a video. We've had it for a week. We appreciate everything. All you guys. We're just trying to talk ball. That's it. We're two guys that love ball and love Duke football and just want to talk about it. The whole FINA thing. That's going to be so much fun to bring him on, talk about his sons, his career, Duke, and just what a fun time that's going to be to talk football. But we may have some other stuff in store. Stay tuned. I'm actually going to be making a trip to Charlotte this coming up week. Me and
Yeah, we'll
Noah
have
may.
some content come out. We're gonna have a little bit of in-person content come out.
Yeah, so just make sure you're definitely following us. We're gonna try and put it on all of the on all the socials, but make sure you're following us again: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter now. And as always, DDMF.